the couples are really in a difficult situation, but most of them have postponed, and I've kept my prices at that discounted rate because I
Yeah,
think they've got enough additional cost at the moment
yeah.
without anybody trying to profiteer out of this situation. So that means I'm taking a hit because obviously my busy days, the Saturdays in the summer months next year, you'll know yourself, are very popular, and we only do one booking a day.
Yeah,
So they're now getting filled up with 2020 postponements,
yeah,
which will affect next year.
yeah.
But when people are finding that by having midweek weddings, you know yourself, by having a midweek wedding, they can save a whole heap of money.
Thousands of pounds.
Yeah, then it's good for the couple, but it helps with availability.
Yeah.
Um, the other issue that some couples who are not clients of mine, but from inquiries that I'm getting, are from people whose venue has advised them to postpone until next year,
Right.
and they've been able to come up with a date, but then the registrars are not available
Ah,
because,
yeah.
bless them, the registrars are under the same pressures of 2020 bookings on top of 2021s,
Yeah.
and they don't have the flexibility with timetabling that I do. That, they only do certain slots during the day, whereas I can say to couples, well, why don't you be a bit creative here, and why couldn't we do a ceremony at 4 o'clock in the afternoon or something
Yeah.
like that, or even later, and go straight into an evening do. So if you try to be a bit creative like that, that flexibility can help people out as well.
So when you're talking about the registrars, like not having the availability to actually come and
Yeah, to a venue.
do the do the full ceremony at a venue,
Yeah.
do you think that there'll be still a reasonable amount of availability if couples wanted to do it like before or after the ceremony that you could potentially conduct?
Yes, because when they are just doing that minimal statutory marriage, as it's called, or the superintendent's office wedding, which is another, some registrars' offices call it that. They still have to give notice. They can't do it. It has to be no less than the 29 days, the 28 days before they have to give the notice. So they have to have it booked 29 days before, up to a year.
Right.
But they still have to pay for notice, as you would if they were coming to the venue. But because that statutory marriage only lasts that in out dress down appointment that's very very low key, it's almost like just an admin task. Because that only lasts 10 minutes, quarter of an hour max, that is much easier. The registrars can do more of those in the
Yeah.
day
Yeah.
than going from one venue to the next, where the appointments are typically an hour and a half apart.
Is the price difference quite different as well in terms of getting a registrar to come to your venue and then going and just registering
Yeah.
it separately?
Oh, for having a celebrant, well, it varies from celebrant to celebrant prices. I charge £500 for the whole package, plus my mileage, and that includes a rehearsal. That includes as many redrafts as the ceremony as they wish. I also don't charge additional for other elements that they want to include, like a hand fasting or a candle ceremony or anything else that enhances their ceremony. I don't charge extra.
Like if it'd been the other way and I was like, right, I'm gonna like do the admin and then get a celebrant, which like I'd never even heard of when I got married.
No, lots of people haven't heard of
And
them.
I wish I had, because there was a lot of things that I maybe didn't want to say, or like would have liked to have been said by the person marrying us or doing the ceremony, rather than like, because my husband's a man of few words. Um, so how much but I wouldn't have known where to start.
Yeah, exactly. So what I don't do is give a couple a blank piece of paper and say, write your own ceremony. I mean, bespoke has got to have some kind of it's got to have some kind of a structure.
Yeah.
It's got to have some guidelines, like you say. You can't just have a blank piece of paper. I mean, well, some couples will start from scratch and say, right, we'll design it all ourselves, and you are a public speaker and you deliver it for us. That is the one extreme. There's other and then there's other people who would say, well, we want to have as little as possible to say, and we want you to write the script, and you know, you will, that's for me to gauge their personalities and ask them what their preferred style would be, and then I'll go away and do all the writing if they want me to.
Like, how long would a ceremony typically last?
If there's a lot of kids, I tend to kind of say, well, we won't go much beyond half an hour for sure, because obviously they can get restless. But typically it depends. It always depends on how many readings the couple want to have. If they want to do a hand fasting as part of their ceremony, it depends how many readings they have, how many elements they include. The signing of the certificate is kind of a pause with that classic photo opportunity. Typically around about half an hour. So bespoke that the couple can have, you know, a long ceremony or a short one, or they can involve a lot of people. Think something like an elopement, which is where if you've got a really shy couple and they just, or a couple that are not necessarily shy, but they want to focus entirely on just the two of them, with just a photographer and themselves and a celebrant.
I did one of those last year.
Just amazing. I did one at a ruined abbey at dawn in February, and it was a sunrise and it was frosty, and I mean it was just like straight out of a film set. Or they could be in a venue and do the elopement on their own in part of the venue, because like you might not, some people might not realize that I don't need the licensed rooms.
Yeah.
Because what a celebrant does is not legally binding, which is why you have to go to the register office beforehand. I'm not restricted to the licensed areas within a venue. I do find that a lot of couples who are worried about talking in front of everybody else, that the rehearsal really helps, which is something that registrars don't have the capacity to do. So I would go by arrangement with the venue and the couple. I would go the evening before. Typically it's when they're setting up the evening before. I might just borrow them for half an hour, and I would go, and we would just have the key people, and that really settles the nerves, because you don't get the situation where the bride and the person who's walking down the aisle with her get to the front, and they get to the entrance and they think, where am I going, what's going to happen, which is what typically happens. You know, I know how they met, because I do a questionnaire that they fill in, only with stuff that they're prepared to share with their family and friends. So I get all of the funny stories, and kind of, it's really, they fill it in separately, but they obviously discuss it. But they say about how they met from their perspective, what their first impressions were, and what they love about the other person, and what they really appreciate about them, that they might not even know that they appreciate those little, you know, acts of kindness, and those little ways that they show that they care. And also what winds them up about the other person that they'll put up with because they're worth it. And I weave all of that into the ceremony, because I tell everybody I'm going to tell them a love story, and it's a true love story. So all of that means that I know this couple, you know, so much better. Towards the end, I get them to just pause and turn and face everybody and just look around and just savor the moment.
Be present.
And it's just a lovely, because they look, and then you get them seeing their friends and family, people that they might not have seen for months on end, will catch their eye, and they'll smile, and then they'll look at the decorations or the decor that they've chosen, and they'll look around and think how fabulous it looks. And it's a moment of reflection that you just don't get again, because as soon as it gets to the end of the ceremony, it's full on party, and there's reception, and there's everything else kind of flows and avalanches down from that.
A lot of couples don't realise, and I found this out when I was helping my friend plan her wedding, some venues, yes, you can have a teepee, but you can't have your marriage ceremony in it because they're not licensed in that area of the grounds, right?
It has to be a permanent structure.
Right. Okay.
So it has to be a permanent structure that has been licensed. This is another thing that I was going to talk to couples about if their venue can't accommodate a postponement, and their contract with the venue cannot be fulfilled, and they are able to claim on their insurance if they have wedding insurance if it's cancelled by the venue. A couple could find themselves with all of their suppliers lined up but no venue anymore. that's where the flexibility of having a celebrant comes in, because they are not restricted to license. So there could be a lovely country pub that they know that's got a function room, or it's got a lovely garden where they could erect a teepee, or a private house that's got a garden, or a country house, or a barn, or anything where they can have much more creativity. But there's all kinds of celebrants out there. There's some that are very, very zany and very quirky. There's others that appeal to people who've got like Wiccan views or pagan views and things like this. And it's horses for courses. And you know, what you see is what you get. I think authenticity is really important. I've come up with a phrase that I've used a couple of times on Instagram, and it's about difficult times make us love more fiercely. Because it just brings out, it's an anxiety actually about, you know, appreciating somebody even more, and therefore more anxious about, you know, keeping them safe. The word cherish is often used in a marriage or a wedding ceremony, and it's an old-fashioned word, cherish. And the word devotion, being a devoted couple, it's really old-fashioned, but that's the only word I can think of around, you know, caring so deeply about somebody that you put their safety and their well-being and their happiness before yourself. It was a good day. Thank you. Cheers.
See you later. Bye.